Centralization of transport in the hands of the state. Yeah, nationalize the railways, I say. 7. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, and bringing into cultivation of wastelands and improvement of the soil generally in accordance with a common plan. Now, all of that sounds generally okay. You extend. It doesn't mean that the state has to own all factories and instruments of production, stated simply as that, although I'm sure that Marx would argue that it would. And then the bringing into cultivation of wastelands. Now, we have to be careful how we define a wasteland, don't we? And cultivation of everything, this kind of like, oh yeah, we can just maximize production by totally getting every little last drop of productivity out of everything. That could never function as a political ideal in and of itself, But certainly there are some wastelands which could fairly easily and cheaply be brought into some kind of functionality, especially combined with 8. Equal liability of all to labour, establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. Now, on one hand, this one can sound extremely oppressive, and we are, minded to think of the sort of Soviet and Maoist attempts to send the intellectuals to the country and make them do hard labour, and then make sure that they learn the value of sticking close to the land, which, as demented as it was in its application, does speak to something. And again, I have an Arendtian take on this, that the lowest level of the vita activa, the realm of labor, which is where we all have to spend some of our time because it is our identity as a human biological individual, not a human social individual, or we exist in this lowest realm, the realm of labor. So to say equal liability of all to labor and establishment of industrial armies, especially for agriculture. So I went off on one a bit here, but my point was that it's not insane to imagine the idea that government workers, maybe even some private workers, depending, could be sent a letter every X years that they would be working on an agricultural project, a part of an agricultural army for 1 or 2 weeks. In a year from now, they can prepare for it. They could even book paid time off, and they'll be given room and board during the project. And that would be a way to sort of harness the people in the city to help with the agricultural development of the land and, as it were, give them a respect for that. And I understand that it is still sounding like that kind of Maoist, you go and do this. But like I say, we're going to be talking 1 or 2 weeks every X years, and I would say X is more than 1, but that in concept doesn't seem like an insane policy to me.